Ladies and gentlemen, grab your torches and pitchforks. So I had said at the end of Iron Man 2 that I was never going to see this movie under any circumstances, and I meant it. But that statement was pretty safe because, truth be told, I never had any plans to see this movie anyway. I could care less about a bunch of superheroes crammed into one film, especially superheroes that the individual movies starring them failed to make me care about. The only reason I'm going back on what I said is because lots of people have asked me very nicely to watch and review this. And you know, after all the fans asking me to watch and hearing all the really stellar reviews for this film, I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this movie will really surprise me and shatter all of my expectations. So I go back on my word after Iron Man 2, and I do this for you, the tons and tons of people who asked me to. I have now seen the Avengers, and you want to know what I think? Very well. This movie was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Bad, dumb, and arbitrary. The Avengers was tedious and terrible, and watching it was just one big pain in my ass. And before you cry foul, flood my inbox with hate mail, and make my dislike bar look like Darth Vader's lightsaber, just remember, I didn't want to see this stupid thing in the first place. I was perfectly content to let this one go and not say a word about it. I'm doing this because you asked me to. You can probably guess what my biggest problem with this movie is. It has no story. The plot of this movie is like sitting on a couch listening to a fanboy read off bad fan fiction that he wrote in his basement. All that's happening here is that a villain is going to take over the world with things and for reasons, and a bunch of superheroes have to stop him. But of course, before that can happen, we have to round all these superheroes up. This movie begins with one of the longest and most boring roundup scenes I have ever witnessed. Here's the entire opening of the film. Someone goes to the Hulk and says, "We have a situation and we need your help." Then they go to Iron Man and say, "We have a situation and we need your help." Then they go to Captain America and say, "We have a situation and we need your help." And every time they say this, these people have to re-explain the plot over and over and over again. Fuck, just get the fuck on with this. And that's just with the roundup shit. God help you when this movie actually gets on with itself. The dialogue in this movie is awful. It's just a bunch of jargon, bad puns, and bad jokes, one right after the other. Let me give you an example of what a scene in this film is like. A bunch of these characters will be sitting around in a room, and one character will say something like, "We have to stop the Tesseract before the Chintari can subjugate the Earth, so we'll initiate the Avengers initiative so that the gamma radiation emissions can help us to obtain the iridium necessary to convince Loki to abandon his plan and return to Asgard." Then that character will do something like look at Captain America and say, "Wow, you're an old meat popsicle." These characters never have a goddamn thing to say to one another except for a part towards the end where they all argue about their dumb backstories. Other than that, it's just, "Oh look, Thor and the Hulk are fighting, yay!" This movie's biggest problem is exactly what I thought it was going to be, shoving superheroes into one film like a clown car for the purposes of watching them do things just for kicks. No substance, no story, no good. The problem is that this movie has no central main character that we're supposed to care about, so all the superheroes together just feel like a sidebar. They're like guest stars in a movie starring no one. The villain they need to stop in this film is a stock, boring character named Loki, which is a character from one of these other films. Now, I couldn't sit through all of the Captain America movie or the Thor movie because they were terrible, boring, and dumb, but I do remember that this stupid Loki guy was in the Thor movie. So not only are they giving us this standard, basic, dull plot involving a supervillain trying to super take over the world with heroes having to stop him, but they're reusing the same dumb villain from one of these other movies. I don't get it. What's good about this? The rest of the film is just a bunch of comic book jargon and superhero fights. There's really not much else to say about this. This is exactly what I was afraid of. The Avengers has a stupid villain who was only in the movie to give the movie an excuse to watch superheroes do things. You may disagree with that, but I'm sorry, I'm not wrong. Look at that stupid fight between Iron Man and Thor. What was that scene for other than just to see these two fight? There's no substance to this movie. It's just a bunch of fan service. And you know what? At the end of the day, I could have just accepted that. If people are a fan of these guys and they just want to watch them do things and have a good time, that's okay with me. Like, honestly. What bothers me is how acclaimed this film became. All of the critics were talking about this like it was some great movie. To those professional critics, not the fans who liked this, I have no issue with you, but just to the critics who talked this movie up, The Dark Knight was a great superhero movie. This is just fan service. There was nothing of substance in here at all. It's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman times 10. You know, even with all the problems and plot holes in The Dark Knight Rises, and I do admit that that film had its share of problems, but it was still somewhat sophisticated cinema. This has all the sophistication of jangling keys in front of an infant. And that's not a jab at any of the fans. It really isn't. I don't mind if you guys enjoy this, whereas I did not. My problem lies in anyone claiming that this is anything but mindless entertainment. It's Mountain Dew infused with more Mountain Dew served with Mountain Dew. It's mindless, dumb entertainment. But to call it a great movie? What a fucking joke. If I hadn't been watching this for the purposes of review, I would have turned this off at the part where Banner turns into the Hulk. There is nothing to care about here. And I know that I just pissed a whole bunch of people off and I'll have to go through hate mail after this, but please remember, I didn't want to do this in the first place. You guys have been asking me for months to review this movie and tell you what I think, so here it is. The Avengers was terrible. I didn't want to watch it once. I will certainly never watch it again.